Yo guys, what is up? It is Alex or Black Guy here. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you. When it comes to patch notes, I'm not really the best at reading. And some of the VODs and reviews of the patch notes can be hours long. And that's why I'm making this video. This is the Smite 9.7 mid-season patch notes in 16 minutes. I want to emphasize that this will be a general overview of the 9.7 update and will not go in-depth into each and every change. If you would like a more in-depth analysis, I would recommend reading the patch notes yourself or finding a different YouTube video that goes over them more in depth. This video will highlight most of the changes at a surface level, and for certain sections of the patch notes, I will highlight things that I deem to be important enough to talk about. So without further ado, let's get started. To start off, let's go over the skins. Smite's next crossover is with Nickelodeon, and with that we are getting Nickelodeon-themed skins. These skins will be Danny Phantom Giannis, XJ9 Freya, Invader Zim Cupid, Powdered Toast Man Gilgamesh, and Rocco Danzabora. The other skins that will be dropped includes the Crab Charybdis, the Maiden Eset, the Lion Heimdallr, the Scales Nemesis, and Toxic Overload Achilles. 2 weeks after the patch drops, we will be getting Honeybee Aphrodite and Lich Queen Bellona. And then about a month after the patch drops, we're getting Glub Glub Geb and Spirit Father Odin. For quality of life, we'll start off with the new free gods. Bacchus, Chaac, Izanami, Poseidon, and Thanatos will now be free to new players. And the previous gods, Ares, Artemis, Guan Yu, Ra, and Thor, will not be granted to new players. Although, if a player joined prior to this 9.7 update, then they will keep those gods. Previously, Tier 2 skins costed 250 gems, but after this update, you'll be able to purchase these for 25,000 favor. And finally, the shadow skins will be coming back, but instead of them being rewards through clans, you can now buy them for 500 gems or 50,000 favor. This includes Shadow Onher, Eset, Khepri, Thor, and Tyr. In terms of bug fixes, I really only picked out two major things that were fixed. For starters, Magi's Cloak and Spirit Robe will be back as they were previously disabled due to a very large bug. And finally, they fixed the bug where Lancelot couldn't be stunned off of his mount. For game mode changes, there were two big changes that I wanted to highlight. The time until brawling applies out of God combat was increased from 3 seconds to 5 seconds, and the shared XP bonus increases from 1.35 to 1.4. One of the biggest parts of the 9.7 update are the new glyphs. They are changing some current items that already have glyphs, as well as adding some brand new ones. Starting off with Jotun's Wrath. Jotun's Ferocity is being removed from Jotun's Wrath and is being placed on a different item. Instead, Jotun's Ferocity will be replaced by Jotun's Cunning. Jotun's Cunning essentially just helps with CDR. Think of the way Soul Gem passive procs, but instead of healing and doing damage, it just helps reduce CDR of certain abilities. Also, Jotun's Vigor is not being changed at all. Rod of Tahuti glyphs were also changed. Calamitous Rod is not being touched at all. And Nimble Rod of Tahuti has been removed, but it's being placed on a different item that we will talk about later. Nimble Rod of Tahuti is being replaced by Perfected Rod of Tahuti. With Perfected Rod of Tahuti, if you damage an enemy god with two different abilities 3 seconds apart from each other or less, then it'll provide you with movement speed and reduce cooldowns. Bancroft's Talon is now receiving some glyphs, and as I said earlier, old Nimble Rod of Tahuti is now going on Bancroft's to make Nimble Bancroft's Talon. It's essentially the exact same thing, just on Bancroft's Talon. Bancroft's is also getting Bancroft's Claw. With Bancroft's Claw, if certain criteria are met, then abilities will deal bonus damage based on a percentage of the target's max HP, and will also provide you with a shield based on a percentage of your max HP. Executioner is also receiving some brand new glyphs. The first Executioner glyph is getting old Jotun's Ferocity, so Ferocious Executioner essentially works the same way that Jotun's Ferocity worked. Executioner's second glyph is Heavy Executioner. With this, basic attacks will reduce enemy protections by even more, so you're essentially getting Executioner passive, but better. But this also caps your attack speed at 1.75. It's also worth noting that Silver Branch passive will go once you exceed 2.5, even though Executioner caps at 1.75. So Silver Branch won't be affected and you won't be able to abuse Silver Branch passive with this item. Magi's Cloak is getting two glyphs. The first one, Magi's Shelter, means when the passive is consumed, the nearest allied god will receive protection from a single hard CC effect for 5 seconds. If they aren't hit by any CC within this 5 seconds, then they gain 1 second of crowd control immunity. The second one is Magi's Revenge. With Magi's Revenge, if a god hits you with a hard CC while you are protected, they become marked. This mark allows enemy gods to move faster towards them, and they take increased damage. The next section are the new masks. So masks are being removed as items and are instead being put as a starter item. So essentially the tier 1 mask is just being removed. The tier 2 of the current iteration of masks will be starters, and then the tier 3 of the current iteration of masks will be their upgraded variants. The first new starter is Protector's Mask. This can only be purchased by mages, assassins, and hunters and provide health and mana. The passive decreases damage dealt and taken, and the passive provides bonus gold and health. This can also be upgraded at level 15. Protector's Mask upgrades into Lono's Mask. This is very similar to the current iteration of Lono's Mask. It provides health, mana, and crowd control reduction. With new Lonos, you will start off with 5 stacks of Cowardice. Each stack reduces your damage dealt and healing output by 10%. But for every 60 protections you have from items, it removes a stack of Cowardice and provides stacks of Bravery, which provides 3% damage mitigation and 7 physical and magical prots to all allied gods around you. The next starter is Fighter's Mask. New Fighter's Mask provides physical and magical power, HP 5, and CDR. The passive is essentially the opposite of Protector's, where it increases damage dealt and taken. It also gives you MP5 based on your missing mana, and your abilities deal 10 bonus true damage to minions. Fighter's Mask upgrades into Rangda's Mask, which provides physical and magical power, HP 5, and CDR. And again, this is essentially the opposite of Lono's Mask, where you start out with 5 stacks of weakness, and each stack increases the damage taken by 10%. But for each 65 physical power or 90 magical power you have from items, it removes a stack of weakness. And every time you remove a stack of weakness, you gain a stack of strength. Each stack of strength increases damage dealt and movement speed. Moving into items, we'll start off with the new item tree. Smite will be receiving 4 new pairs of earrings with the intent to break some rules. Personally, I wanted pants, but earrings are cool too. I'm going to skip over the specifics of the tier 1 and tier 2, but just know that there is a tier 1 earring that builds into 3 separate tier 2 earrings, and all of those combined build into 4 separate tier 3 earrings. The first earring, Griffin Wing Earrings, provides physical and magical power, attack speed, and MP5. And the passive allows basic attack projectile speed to be increased by 40%, but reduces basic attack damage by 15%. This is also class locked to hunters and mages only. The next earring, Sphinx's Baubles, I hope I pronounced that right, provides physical and magical power, cooldown reduction, and MP5, and this increases the cooldown reduction cap from 40% to 60%. But it decreases ability damage and ability healing. The next earring, Manticore's Spikes, provides health, HP 5, MP5, and crowd control reductions. The passive of Manticore's Spikes makes it so when you hit an enemy with a hard crowd control, they drop a spike on the ground. You or an ally can then pick up this spike, and that enhances their next ability. This enhanced ability will deal bonus damage to enemy gods based on a percentage of their max HP. The bonus damage is doubled if you pick up the spike versus an ally. The last earring, Fey Blessed Hoops, provides health, HP 5, and MP5. The passive of this allows a flower to be dropped if an allied god dies near you or you heal them with a healing ability. Picking up this flower gives you a shield based on your max HP that lasts 8 seconds. Picking up multiple flowers will not stack the shields and will instead refresh the duration. Now moving on to the current item balance. Brawler's Divine Ruin and Toxic Blade are having their anti-heal debuff duration nerfed by 1 second. Bumba's Hammer is getting kind of a rework. It now provides physical power, magical power, and health, and instead of 20% CDR, it's 10% CDR. The passive is essentially the same, except instead of getting healed based on your max health, you are getting healed a flat 120 health. Heartward Amulet Glyphs are getting buffed. Amulet the Stronghold passive now provides more protections, and Amulet the Silence's internal cooldown has been reduced. Supports are inherently getting buffed. For starters, the support starter items can now be upgraded at level 15 instead of 17. This includes Sentinel's Gift, War Flag, and Benevolence. Sentinel's gift now provides more gold for every time the gold is triggered. And Sentinel's Embrace is getting 6 GP5. For Relic Dagger, it increases the relic cooldown reduction by 10 seconds. Tyrannical Plate Helm is getting a buff, where the buff it gives to minions is increased by 5% on both health and attack speed. Mail of Renewal is getting 10 more physical and magical prots for a total of 20 extra prots. The Sledge is getting increased crowd control reduction by 10% for a total of 30. Shield of Regrowth is now getting physical and magical power during the buff duration. Pythag's Piece is getting a slight change. The health it grants is increased by 50. They added 10% cooldown reduction and removed the magical penetration it gives. Staff of Mirrodin has been changed and the passive is getting kind of a rework. It works the same way, where after you cast your ultimate, you gain a buff. But this buff isn't cooldown reduction and is instead increased damage dealt. So after you cast your ult for a certain amount of time, your next abilities will deal bonus damage. And finally, Celestial Legion Helm is getting crit damage reduction that is similar to how Spectral Armor works. Now moving on to relic changes. Bracer of Illumination has the entire buff duration increased by 4 seconds. The miasma damage from Drowned Ankh has been doubled. The knockback strength of Cloak of the Avatar has been increased by 33%. The damage from Chaotic Beads used to be 7% of the current health as magical damage, and now it's 5% of the current health as true damage. Emblem of Trembling Terror is getting a buff, where the health threshold for Tremble to occur has been halved, from 30% max HP to 15% max HP. Sundering Blast received a buff, where it increased the target's damage taken from 5% to 7.5%. And finally, Thorns of Overgrowth received a buff, where the passive radius was increased from 55 to 70 units. With the 9.7 update, we are seeing some changes to the way that diminishing returns and crowd control works. The way this works, as well as the way crowd controls are classified, are being changed, and I'm going to highlight what I think is the most important. So first of all, stacks of diminishing returns will be a visible icon on the buff bar. Instead of subsequent crowd control effects being decreased by 40% per ability, it is now 20%. But the maximum stacks go from 2 to 4. The way crowd control has been classified has also been changed, and I don't want to go into the nitty-gritty of it as per the nature of this video, but I do think it is important to note that roots are now considered a hard crowd control effect. Out of everything in this video, I'd really suggest reading these changes on the patch notes yourself. Before going into God changes, I wanted to talk about a new system of buffs and nerfs that they're introducing in the form of non-conquest balance changes. There will be separate balance changes for non-conquest game mode per god. And these aren't really changes to numbers, they are percentage-based buffs or debuffs based on certain categories. These categories are damage to minions, damage to gods, damage received, healing given, non-ultimate ability cooldowns, and ultimate ability cooldowns. So in this video, I'm going to discuss the conquest changes as well as the non-conquest changes in the same section. Across all game modes, Ao Kuang's passive got a buff where it decreases the time it takes to gain a stack, and his first ability got 10% increased magical scaling. In non-conquest game modes, Ao Kuang is going to receive negative 5% damage taken, negative 10% non-ultimate cooldowns, as well as negative 10% ultimate cooldowns. The healing reduction from Cerberus passive is being increased from 20% to 25%, and his first ability is getting 10 more base damage at every rank. Cupid's first ability is getting 10% more damage to minions on both the hit and the explosion, and the base heal for every heart is getting increased on his second ability. Discordia's second ability is getting 20 base damage increase at every rank, and the cooldown of her third ability is getting decreased by 1 second. Hera's passive is getting a buff where she's getting increased cooldown reduction on both Argus from 1 second to 1.5 seconds, and Commanding Presence from 0.33 seconds to 0.5 seconds. Both Hercules' first and second ability is getting a 1 second cooldown reduction at all ranks. Hunbat's second ability is getting both a base damage increase, and it is now knock-up and knockback immune during the ability. Nike's first ability is getting cooldown reduction every time you rank it up. In the second ability, for the part where her shield explodes, the base damage will be increased by 10 at all ranks. Pele's first ability is getting buffed, where the return damage from the projectile, the damage is being increased from 20 to 30. Serket's first ability is getting an increase in base damage, and her ultimate is getting 15% more damage mitigation, from 35 to 50%. In non-conquest game modes, Serket will receive negative 10% damage taken, and plus 5% damage to gods. Ares' first ability will now deal 40% extra damage to jungle monsters, and in non-conquest game modes, his ultimate cooldown will be increased by 15%. Danzaburò's second ability will deal 40% extra damage to jungle monsters. The Morrigan's first ability will now deal 30% extra damage to jungle monsters. Changa's base HP as well as HP gain per level is getting increased. Thor's first ability will now deal 100% damage to minions from their return swing. Zhongkui's base physical protections will increase from 11.2 to 15.2. The rest of these will be only non-conquest mode changes. Alplash will receive negative 5% damage to gods, negative 10% damage to minions, plus 5% non-ultimate cooldowns, and plus 10% ultimate cooldown. Artemis will receive negative 5% damage to gods, and plus 10% ultimate cooldowns. Both Arachne and Bakasura will receive negative 10% damage taken and negative 10% ultimate cooldown. Camzots will receive negative 10% to both non-ultimate and ultimate cooldowns. Giannis will receive plus 10% damage to gods. Khepri will receive plus 5% damage taken, plus 5% non-ultimate cooldowns, and plus 15% ultimate cooldowns. Set will receive plus 5% damage to minions, negative 5% damage taken, and negative 5% non-ultimate cooldowns. Zeus will receive negative 10% damage to gods, and plus 5% non-ultimate cooldowns. Thank you guys for watching. In the last episode, I asked for criticisms and feedback, and I'd like to thank everybody that left a comment. The biggest criticism of the last one was that I was too general with some of the changes. And so to compromise, if it is very easy to be specific, then I'm going to be specific with it. But if there is a long, complicated description of how something works, then I will try to condense it as much as possible. So once again, I am asking for criticisms and feedback again. Was this easy to follow? Did you enjoy the format? And what could I be doing differently? Or if you just liked everything, just tell me you liked it. As always, my Twitter and Twitch is on screen and in the description, and I would appreciate a follow on those as well. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.